America, World Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Tong, your host here.
And your co-host, Kurt Wilhelm, here on Ageless Living. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, we discuss on Ageless Living all things having to do with health, beauty, fashion, and just anything about increasing your well-being and balance in your life.
Right. Well, one of the things, one of the messages I'm trying to get through is the key word is balance. Balance in life means a little bit of everything. Nothing is absolutely good. Nothing is absolutely bad. That's called yin and yang, right?
Yes.
There's some yin and yang,
Yeah.
and there's some yang and yin.
Thank you.
And this today, topic is going to be, I think it's a very popular one, about juicing.
It's popular with me, if nothing else.
Well, I think actually it's popular with a lot of people.
It is,
I've
absolutely.
recently talked to a lot of people who are interested in starting or have already been juicing. And Kurt, have you seen the documentary movie that's called Fat, Sick, Nearly Dead?
Yes, in fact, that's what made me start officially juicing into my. We had different types of juicers. We didn't know whether we should be using like a Vitamix where it just blends it all up. So in other words, a blender, or if we should be using a juicer. But that's what made us decide to get a real juicer.
Well, I think from the internet report, that documentary made the juicer of that brand sale double.
I would not doubt it.
Yeah.
And by the way, we've tried other juicers, and it really is a good juicer, the one they recommend.
Well, we're going to talk about all the things related to juicing in this show. Actually, I think we may actually do 2 shows to cover this topic.
Thank you. I'm excited about that. I'd say I love it.
So we also will cover some health tip of the day about dental health. We're going to go over that at the end of the show. But first of all, in that documentary, if you haven't seen it before, it's really interesting. It is regarding to this guy named Joe Klaus, who's been doing fasting and juicing. Did this whole 60-day journey with under his doctor's care. So it's pretty inspiring and interesting. And he actually did a road tour across America, and using his own experience, inspired a couple of guys to join him in this journey. And the results are
the results are great. If I could make a couple of comments along the way, is that he actually lets you think that he lost all of his weight because he walked across the United States. He just drove, okay? And he did do some exercising and walking along the way, but his big message was just telling people, or inviting people to try the juice fast. And it was surprising how few people would take him up on the offer. But
they asked, can you juice steaks? There are a couple guys actually asked
there you
that.
go, exactly. So, we are so married as Americans to our way of eating. Potatoes, things that are just not good for us. There's a reason why Americans the stereotype of Americans is that we're overweight.
Well, I actually want to clarify that potatoes are really not that bad. It depends on how you cook it and how you eat it and how much you eat.
And how much, kind of the back in balance, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So after watching the documentary, one of the things that came to my mind and many people's mind is that, well, what about the protein? Did you have that question in your mind too?
Yes, absolutely. I had that question. Was he stripping himself out? Now, I'm going to let you. We're going to have a banter back and forth on this. At the end of the show, he had lost a ton of weight. Well, not a ton, but a lot of weight.
Over 100 pounds.
Yeah, over 100 pounds, and did a great job losing that weight. Phenomenal.
And also stopped taking medications.
Yes, he was on a lot of medications. He got off of those medications, so there were so many wonderful things about it. But the one thing comment that my wife did make is he went through all of that, but he is still kind of slim. In other words, he definitely didn't look like he went to the weight room.
You mean he's not bulky muscle-wise?
Yeah, so he didn't add a ton of muscle, But which would you rather have, in my opinion? Less fat or a lot of muscle, you know?
This is really interesting because this is, I think, it's culturally related to health-wise. I think average American cultural point of view, muscle is important, and it's an important indicator of health. You know, but in the Chinese culture, it is not necessarily that much emphasized. So how big your muscle bulk is not necessarily related to your, general health or longevity. Have you known a lot of athletes? They lived a longer lifespan than other average people.
Oh.
Have you noticed any on average athletes? People who are more fit in muscular way. Do they live longer?
I don't know. It's because they're
just
famous. You
stimulating
hear when
to
they
think about
die,
it.
right?
Right.
So.
It's just stimulating to think about it. But so it is true that we view it this way, but not necessarily all over the world.
Let me tell you a stereotype that we do have is that these sports people who tend to be very professional athletes. For example, our swimmer who won the gold in the Olympics, help me with his name.
Michael Phelps?
Michael Phelps.
Yes.
When they asked him, you must have some very special training program, nutrition, food, he's like, I go to Burger King. So now I'm not knocking Burger King in particular as one franchise over another, but what I am saying is that if you're an athlete and you're essentially fit because of the way you're exercising, not necessarily because you're eating properly, then after you stop exercising to that degree, what I do know is that athletes do tend to eat the same way, and then they bulk up, and rather than a muscular way, they bulk up in where they get fat over time.
Well, I also think this is a good time to clarify the point that I believe, I think there's debates, there's, different opinions, schools of thoughts on how much we should emphasize on dieting, how much we should emphasize on exercise. It's obviously individualized, depending on the different goals. But for general health and weight maintenance purpose, I think dieting is a little bit more important than exercising. There's only so much you can exercise, unless you're like Michael Phelps, swimming 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day.
Right. In Michael Phelps' defense, if you think about what's inside of Burger King, it is a lot of carbs, a lot of essentially, because carbs just turn into sugar anyway, and then he actually had a lot of red meat. But the point is that combination of protein and essentially sugar in the form of buns was actually feeding all of that energy that he needed. But if he keeps eating like that, that's what I'm saying. I'm not necessarily faulting him at the time, but that if he keeps eating that way over time and stops exercising. And I agree with your points.
Right. So the protein part actually was the part I did a little bit of research on. So basically, do you know that if there's any protein in the vegetable and fruit juices?
Very little. I know broccoli tends to have more protein than other types of vegetables.
Very good, very good. There's actually protein in just about all vegetable and fruits. Small amount. But if you eat enough of it, it might be enough for basic maintenance of your body, metabolism.
You bet. And I'm going to bring in to support something that you said a little bit earlier, is that I actually did have a personal trainer who my wife and I were there, and he was kind of giving me the what you should do for the next 6 months plan. And he took off his shirt. He said, "Look at his abs were just ripped." And he said, "So you probably think that I do all kinds of leg lifts and sit-ups and all kinds of abdominal workout." And he said, "Do you know how much abdominal workout I do?" And we said, "How much?" He said, "None." He said, "It's the way I eat." He said, "If I eat in the right combinations of protein, carbs, and fat, and you do it in the good, organic, healthy way, your body will actually go to its true muscular form." So in other words, your diet over your exercise.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you lose the unnecessary or the excess fat, your muscle is the muscles are gonna show better. You look more defined.
Correct.
Yeah.
You bet.
Is that your experience too?
Yeah. In fact, if you ask, our videographer who doesn't have the mic right now, he actually does a reality show having to do with the lifestyle of what it's like to be a competitive weightlifter, both male and female. And not necessarily weightlifting, but it's fitness modeling, whatever the case might be. And the advice that they give before they go to a show, it is a lot. I won't go into all the details, but essentially it has to do with bringing out the muscles, so that, and some of it's not healthy, getting your skin to be a little bit translucent, so then your muscles show up better. But a lot of it does have to do with just eating really well and eating right, getting the right nutrients.
Absolutely. So Joe Cross was under his physician's care, and they did the blood work, they did the physical exam. He was obviously doing okay for fasting for 60 days with just juices. And now that inspired a lot of interest. Like I said, the sale of the juicers doubled, and a lot of people got interested into juicing. So the questions come into their mind are quite a few, and we're going to go over those questions when we come back.
You bet. And the teaser I'm going to leave is that Joe was his name that was in the...
Joe Cross.
Joe Cross. So one of the things that Joe Cross pointed out was he's not an extremist in any way. He just thinks that if we get back in balance, and part of getting back in balance is to add that juice into our lives, and sometimes do a juice fast cleanse. But when we come back from break, we're going to talk about how his health improved, how he lost that weight, and some of the examples of others that joined him in his invitations across the United States, some of the good experiences they had. So we will be right back after the break. Thanks for tuning in to Ageless Living here on Real Talk Radio, Voice America.
We'll be right back.